Peace. Welcome to Spears and Mics. I'm your host, Zulu King L1. We got the brother Shaka Zulu Watt. We got Zulu King Just P. We got Zulu King Razor. And we got a very, very special guest, our big brother, Zulu King Lord Sharief, who was a baby spade, a young spade, a black spade, and the founder of Shaka Zulu and a longtime co-captain of Shaka Zulu. So we're honored and to have the big brother on with us, to have the Lord Sharif on with us, to soak up his wisdom and get some of his experiences within the Spades, within Zulu Nation, within his experience in the Bronx. So thank you, big brother, for your time, your wisdom, and your energy. We appreciate you coming on Spears and Mics.
Uh,
My pleasure, my honor, and my humility. Peace to all my brothers.
Peace.
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 Lord Sharif, who can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background? Who is Lord Sharif?
Indeed. Lord Sharief was a youngster on the west side of the Bronx, the section between Tremont section between Grand Concourse, Webster Avenue, going all the way down to 169th Webster Projects, which was known as the Nine. That part of the Bronx was the 18th division of the Black Spades, and as y'all know, I'm talking 72, 73, and that's why Africa Bambaataa uses 1973 as the
Mm,
founding of not the Zulu Nation, but of the Black Spades being the origin of the Zulu Nation. So in that section in the Bronx was the 18th Division. I lived on Anthony Avenue and 175th. I don't know if y'all familiar with, if y'all remember Mitch Green, the boxer, Blood.
Mm-hmm.
He
hmm
lived right
Yes,
across the
sir.
street
Absolutely.
from me.
Yep.
He was one of the homeboys. He lived right across the street from me on 175th and Anthony Avenue. That whole block between Anthony Avenue and the Grand Concourse and 175th was 18th Division. A lot of cats was 18th Division. As a matter of fact, one of the presidents, the president of the 18th Division, Mankind, lived in that block. But at that time, my sister was going with this brother named Ajax from Bronxville. And as y'all know, the first division started in Bronxville
hmm
as far back as 1969. So this is 72, and Ajax, he favored me. So I would go to Bronxville with my sister and Ajax and hang out and was introduced to the black space. A lot of the older cats, the founders that was there, you know.
hmm
Ajax came from the Nelson family. They were well known in Bronxville. And I was made a part of the baby Spades.
mm
Um, I got into a lot of stuff as a youngster at 12 years old. Um, Still in elementary school. When I got to junior high school, I went with a group of brothers from that same block, 175th, and we was all tight. And one of them brothers was Trouble. That was his name. I don't
mm
know if y'all remember Trouble, Zulu King
Yeah, yeah,
Trouble.
yeah.
So
Yes, sir.
definitely.
James
Yep.
Murphy. He was wild. But we all went to junior high school 147. And like I said, Webster Avenue, that was all 18th Division. And keep in mind, a lot of the brothers from the 18th Division was from Webster Projects or Washington Projects, the 969th from Webster. But the base at that time for Webster Avenue was 173rd and Webster, right by the Cross Bronx Expressway. So the group that I was with, including Trouble, a brother named David Foe, we were just our own little clique. But we clicked with the 18th Division of the Black Spades, right there on Webster Avenue. And we started doing a lot of stuff with them. At that time in the Bronx, you had the Savage Skulls. You had the Black Pearls. You had the Peacemakers, which my cousin was the president of the Peacemakers, and they was based on off of 7 Boulevard, 178th, right off of Tremont, in that section of the Bronx, not far from West Farms. That was the Peacemakers. You had the Royal Javelins, and at that time, that was one of the Black Spades' main adversaries, the Royal Javelins, and they boarded the concourse, that area of the 18th Division. So we got into a lot of beefs with them. And there was one time they just rolled right down into Claremont Park, which was across the street from 147. And we banged right there. And I got a nice cut on my arm from that fight, that gang fight to remember. And we got into it with the Savage Nomads. We battled them. A couple of brothers got shot on the east side of the Bronx. Brother Solsky, he was a Black Spade. I don't know if y'all remember his name.
Of course.
He got killed around the early 70s. He was close with Bam. Right. But and at that time I had moved to 178th and Creston Avenue when I was going to that junior high school. When you say another division, what? When I moved?
When you moved to that new location, was there a different division in that turf? Or
it was still 18th. It was still 18th. Okay. Because it was across the other side. It was right across on the other side of the Grand Concourse. It was 178th Creston, or a little further down, Burnside. So I'm still in the 18th Division, and I'm clicking with brothers that's in that neighborhood, that Burnside, Jerome Avenue, Grand Concourse, it's all the west side of the Bronx. But at this time, so I went from 72 to 74. During that 2-year period, I started in the baby Spades in 72. By 73, into 73, beginning of 74, I'm in the 18th Division. Okay, and by the summer of 74, the chapters start shutting down. You had the 1st Division in Bronxdale, which was one of the founding division. You had the 10th Division in Bronx River with Bam and them. You had the 22nd Division that Charlie Rock was in, uptown. Gun Hill Road, that section in the Bronx. And 22nd was one of the biggest chapters in the Black Spades. Much respect and honor to them. But Black Spades started shutting down in 74. While I was living on Creston Avenue, 178th, and hanging out with that clique on Burnside, one of them brothers, at that time, Cool Herc, the founding father of hip hop. Y'all all familiar with him, right?
Absolutely.
Y'all familiar with Cool Herc? Okay, Cool Herc is indeed the founding father of hip hop. There was nobody else at that time. Before him, at that time, you had Pete DJ Jones, you had Reggie Wells, you had Hollywood, but they was playing disco. When Herc broke out, he started playing in a club called the Hevelo, right there on Burnside Avenue in Jerome. From there, he went to the parks. By the summer of 74, one of the first parks that he rocked in was Cedar Park. Now, the Spades is debunked. Okay? Everybody started clicking up into crews. A lot of them Spades became the 9 crew, the Casanova crew, the Gestapo crew. Those are the 3 main crews in the Bronx. Gestapo, 9, and Gestapo, 9, and Casanova. And later on, they would a few of them would beef. But one of the brothers I was hanging out with on that that block, Creston Avenue. His name was Charlie Rock. That was the original Charlie Rock. He was a b-boy. So we going to Herc jams, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and these cats I'm hanging out with, they b-boys. I'm talking about the original Easy Al, you know, because you had the Easy Al from Bronx River. But the original Easy Al was at them Herc jams. Charlie Rock, Lee Ski, James Bond. I'm talking about the original Herc Lords. James Bond, Eldorado Black Mike, the Nigger Twins. I'm talking about this is the era before the Zulu Kings. So this is the
Right.
original Herc Lords. This is the original B-Boys. Right? So from there, you got other DJs that came to the picture. Grandmaster Cass, I don't know if y'all familiar with him. He was
Very
one of the
much so.
originals at that time that was coming to the Herc jams, you know, on the west side of the Bronx because he was close to the west side of the Bronx. Now keep in mind, everybody on the east side of the Bronx, you know, a lot of cats from Bronxville, they try to claim that Disco King Mario was the founder.
Mm-hmm.
They were doing house jams because I was going to Bronxville. Remember, I was going to Bronxville to them house jams at 12 years old. You know, Mario around 74, around the time Herc was doing his thing, did give a jam in Rosedale Park. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but at that time, Herc was the man in the Bronx, and it was really on the west side of the Bronx. I'm talking, like I said, Cedar Park, which was right off of the Harlem River on the Bronx, Cedric Avenue, Arthur Park, Echo Park, the PAL, and of course he played on the Nine. The Nine crew, they followed Herc. So, you know, 74, 75 remained Herc. By 76, Grandmaster Flash came on the scene. Came out of the South Bronx, Boston Road, that section, 169th, 170th. But also at that time, you had the L Brothers, Mean Gene and Theodore, Grand Wizard Theodore. They doing their thing at 63 Park, which was right there on Boston Road in 168th. They started there. Flash started at a spot called the Black Door on Boston Road in 170th. He took Herc's crowd pretty much overnight. He rocked at a spot called the Dixie Club. Okay? Keep in mind, East Side still quiet. Still quiet. This is 75. By 76, Bam was doing his thing. We went to, Bam was playing music out of his apartment. He used to put his speaker outside. And he was practicing in his apartment. I moved off the west side in 74 and started going to IS 167, which was on the east side, by Lambert, West Farms, Bronx River, going northeast Bronx, Monroe, Castle Hill, all those projects that eventually became a part of the Bronx organization. But how I got introduced to the Bronx River organization is the cats that I went to school with at 167. They were airlights of the Gestapo. You had Little D. Little D was very well known. You know, may he rest in peace. He was one of the biggest stick-up kids in Gestapo, and he was 5 feet tall. 5 feet. And Cecil, Kendu,
Of course,
his brother
Spider
Mackie.
as well, right?
They was
Spider was
all,
there, right?
right. They was all under Spider. They
Right.
was young. They was all under Spider. So that's who I went to school with. we was all close. And I gotta mention Big Brother Gerald. We called the Black Moses. He was the one I wanted to keep the Spades going. So he took me to Bronx River to Spider to see Spider. And I said, Spider, I want to do a chapter. I want to keep the chapter going. I'm from the 18th Division. Okay, he showed me love and respect, but he said go to Bambaataa because he knew the 10th was debunked as well. So it was Spider that sent me to Bambaataa, you know. And Bambaataa at that time, he was coming around IS 167. Him and Lil Monk. May he rest in peace. I don't know if y'all remember Lil Monk. Big Monk was from Bronxville. Big Monk was the supreme leader of the Black Spades. Right. But Lil Monk was, at that time, he was like Bam's sidekick. You know, he would come over to IS 167. And also Raheem from the Furious Five. Raheem, he went there. He was there with us. So that's how he got close with Spider as well. He's close with Spider, and you know, Spider took him under his wing. But
I've heard him say that. I've heard him speak on that.
yeah. Spider took him under his wing. So Raheem was right there with us at 167. He lived in Lambert. My aunt lived in Lambert, so I was very familiar with all the cats over there in Lambert. At one time, I think I was still in 167. The crew that my cousin was down with, we all went over to Bronx River. And at that time, a lot of cats from the other different projects came to this major meeting from Monroe, Castle Hill, Bronxville. Somehow, Bam is an enigma. Indeed he is. You're talking about one individual that's an enigma with all this mystique that all of a sudden, all the old heads, all the old warlords from the 1st Division, the 10th Division, the 22nd Division, and other divisions, 17th, all gravitated to this individual. Now, he's in Bronx River. He's connected to cats from Bronx still. As far as his nature, I always say, particularly the cats in Bronx still, Spider, Blue, you know, the other older brothers cats from Bronx River, you know, I always say there's somebody there that had to know about his nature. Even in Bronx still, you know, because that didn't start in the 80s, you know, because you remember Poppy said he was molesting him at a young age. If y'all remember, y'all seen that, y'all seen Poppy YouTube, and Poppy said he was molesting
with the story
at a young age, and I'm sure Poppy wasn't the only one. So after that aftermath, you know, everybody was shook. And I pointed this out. I said there was no way that these cats from Gestapo and from Bronxville did not know this man's nature. But because at that time, when I was in that junior high school, with Lil D, with Kendu, with Mackie, with Cecil, it was rumors that he was gay. But when you 14 years old and you see this individual with all this power, when Bam came down to West Farms and we rolled on the 5%, at least 50 cats. At least 50, maybe 75. Because once he threw the word out, this is where we're going, and this is the time we're going to be there. This individual had a lot of power. And when you were at a young age, you don't question. If you down with a certain organization that is that powerful, you'll hear a rumor, but you don't question because there's so much shit going down. You know, that you may come up missing. And that's how serious it was. You know, we was the most powerful organization in the Bronx. And it started as the Bronx River Organization. And it was at that time when I came with that crew from Lambert and met up at that major meeting with the other crews from Monroe, Bronxdale. And they decided that at that time it's going to become the Bronx Organization. So it went from Bronx River Organization to the Bronx Organization. So I had at that time when I was on the west side on the concourse, Crescent Avenue, I moved to Parkchester. I don't know if you're familiar with Parkchester in the Bronx, but Parkchester is in the same area of those projects in the Northeast Bronx. You know, you could get to any of those projects real quick. Soundview, Bronxdale, Monroe, all in the same area. So I'm at Parkchester now. I'm going to Lehman High School. You know, Bam is doing his thing in the center in Bronx River, but him and Mario started playing at Junior High School 123. And that was right off Brooklyn Boulevard, right on the other side of Bronxdale Projects. So you had everybody conversion at Junior High School 123. You know, all the old Black Spade chapters. Everybody was following Bam and Mario. All these old ex-Black Spades, you know, jamming at 123. Bam would go, he would verse Mario, Bam would play, Mario would play. So 123 was the spot. Mind you, still had Grandmaster Flash, you still had Grand Wizard Theodore, but they play in the South Bronx. They're in the South Bronx. You know, and on the west side of the Bronx. But in the Northeast was all Bams and Disco King Mario. All Bams and Disco King Mario. And this was 75, 76, 77. I'm in Parkchester, and I built a crew in Parkchester. So by 77, I went to Bam. And I asked Bam, can I do my own chapter in Parkchester? He said, you can do your own chapter in Parkchester, but on the condition that you ally with Africa Islam and the Mayberry crew. Y'all familiar with them?
No,
well, I know you know Africa Islam.
But not the
Mayberry crew.
Right.
Yeah,
Of course.
Yeah, Africa Islam was right across the bridge, right in a little Italian neighborhood between Morris Park and White Plains Road, right in the cut. But he had a crew of about 10 cats. It was called the Mayberry crew. And these cats were stick-up kids, which, you know, which I was. You know, I was taught the art of sticking up as a baby Spade. You know, by the time I got to the 18th division, I was a full-blown stick-up kid. You know, you had cats that did their thing hustling, which I did as well. But my main thing was sticking up. I was down with stick-up crews. Also the 9 crew. Because when I moved to Parkchester and had my own chapter, it was one of my homeboys from the 9. His name was Blue. This is the same Blue that got to beef with the Gestapo, with Spider, over a girl from Lambert. But Blue was down with the 9 crew. and they used to come up to Parkchester. You know, you had them coming to Parkchester, and you had the Kings from Bronxville coming to Parkchester, all messing with females. You know, Parkchester got 4 different sections, and
Hey, well, not
so
to
you had
not
the
to break
9
your
crew coming
wisdom,
there to Parkchester.
not to
Go
break your
ahead.
wisdom. I used to hear Dollar, Silver Dollar used to mention the Nine Crew, at a lot of Universals. So that you said the Nine Crew and the Gestapos had beef at one time. Is that correct?
Indeed, that's correct.
All right, yeah, because he used to talk
That's
about
correct.
that when we were young. It seemed like it was pretty formidable. Like the Nine was a formidable movement that the G's had beef with at
Oh
the
yeah,
time.
indeed, the 9 crew were they were big. They were stick-up kids. But keep in mind, the Casanova
Mhm,
crew was just as notorious, and the Casanova crew was out of Patterson projects down in the South Bronx, and
that's where
had
Tiny
all these
from, I think.
jams. That's that's where Tiny from. And
Hmm.
they say you remember they killed Peanut. When Peanut
Hmm.
got killed, they said it was one of the 9 crew, Joe Kidd from the 9, that killed Peanut. So the 9 and Casanova, they had beef around that time. This is the South Bronx. You know, the 9, 169th and Washington, Patterson. So wherever they see each other, but mainly at the jams that was still going on in the South Bronx. You know, because the Casanova crew, they followed Flash. The 9 crew followed Herc. So wherever they was having these jams, wherever they caught up, they had beef. But back to Parkchester, cats from Bronxville was coming to Parkchester. Gestapo was coming to Parkchester. They were seeing these girls. And little skirmishes went on in Parkchester. One of my homeboys that was in my chapter, he kept messing around with this girl from one of the sections, and she was saying this cat from Bronxville, and he kept running his mouth. So these cats said they was going to do him from Bronxville. I knew Sterling them, Lil Bambada, my homeboy Jerry, Blood's brother. You know, Clemens from Bronxville is the one he had the particular beef with. So me and 129, it was Grandmaster Kaz that was playing. And they rolled up on my homeboy. His name was Cliff LaRock. You know, Bam saved a lot of cats. You know, I called Bam. I said, I need you to stop this. Bam intervened and said, listen, we're not having it. You know, we family. So Bam squashed that beef. He squashed a lot of beef. That man saved a lot of cats. You know, and that Parkchester crew, we was tight with, like I said, maybe every crew, Africa Islam. So you got all these crews in the Bronx, Monroe, and I got to mention, you know, Dolan. God bless the dead. He was Gestapo, and everybody should remember that name, Dolan. Dolan and Lil D. And Dolan is Dyrone. I don't know if y'all know Dyrone. That be with Biggs.
I heard Bee Stinger mention him. I heard Bee Stinger mention him.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Dyrone be with LG and Biggs and Sugar Ray. You know,
Hmm.
but Dyrone is from Bronx River. That was Dyrone's brother. But Dyrone was young then. Dyrone didn't come into the picture till later on. But I think it was probably around the early. Lil D got killed back in the 70s. He got killed like 75, 76. I'm gonna say 76. Lil D got killed. Um, of course, the notorious Fox. You gotta know that brother's name, Fox. He was down with Gestapo, but he was from Castle Hill. He was a big stick-up kid. And my crew in Parkchester, we allied with the 9 crew. I got very tight with the 9 crew. Very tight with the 9 crew. My man Blue, Champ, Red, Speedy. They was all coming to not only Parkchester, but Lambert. Blue and Spider end up messing with the same girl from Lambert named Ernestine. That's the girl who Spider shot her apartment up. Matter of fact, she lived in the same building as Raheem. She lived in the same building as Raheem. But she decided she wanted to mess with both of them. So they had beef. So now I'm in the middle. Because this is the 9 crew and this is the Gestapo. So I said, look, I'm neutral. I'm not going to war with the 9 crew. I'm not going to war with the Gestapo. Because these are both my crews. I'm down with both. I grew up with both of them. But Blue and this went on for a while. And we in Bronx River. Bam was doing the jam in Bronx River one night. And the Casanova crew, the 9 crews, like I said, was so notorious. They were the only crews that I know that rode into Bronx River deep. They came into Bronx River that night, probably at least 12 of them, all strapped. And Blue came into the center. And he wasn't strapped when he came in. I don't know what made him do this, but Spider wasn't there. It was Crazy Mike. I want to say Smitty. And a couple of other cats. And they get him hemmed up in the bathroom. I go in there and I start talking, trying to bail him out. Listen, this is my homeboy. I know he got beef with Spider, but I'm not letting this go down. And I was strapped. My joint was on there. I had a sword off. It was on the stage with Bam. So he goes, they say, okay, Spider's not here, but we're gonna check with Spider to see the status of this beef. Blue leaves. He gets outside with the rest of his crew. And they start blasting at the center. So now I feel disrespected by him. Because I just got you out of a jam. But you're gonna go outside and you're gonna start blasting on the center. So I pull my joint out. And I start blasting. So it's a shootout in Bronx River between 9 crew and between us. Matter of fact, and Trouble was at that jam. The brother Trouble, he was there as well. And Bam said, Sharif, that was documented because we had a journal at that jam, documenting it. He said he documented that shootout that went down at that time. But that's a little history of the beef between the 9 crew and Gestapo. And these crews were notorious, in the Gestapo. Outlaw was down with Gestapo. Outlaw's older brother, Gunner. And they had a younger brother named Shotgun that used to come around IS 167. His name was Henry. And they lived in Thrall's Neck. Shotgun was a stick-up kid. Like Lil D, he got killed. May he rest in peace. At a very young age, Shotgun, Lil D, at a young age, Dolan. A lot of cats lost their life at a young age. Solski, that was down with the Spades. A lot of cats lost their life at a very young age. But by this time, the chapters in Zulu Nation was New York City. You had different crews all out in Queens and Manhattan. Definitely Brooklyn. You had the A-Team in Brooklyn. You had Supreme Team in Queens. A-Team wasn't no joke. You had a lot of crews out there in Brooklyn, but nobody was coming to the Bronx on no rah-rah. You know, one of the main spots at that time in the Bronx was Disco Fever. That spot was a legend. That was a hustler spot. That was all hustlers from Harlem and the Bronx would converge in that spot. You know, everything that went on in the Northeast was really contained in the Northeast. You know, with Bam and Mario. And as you know, Mario got into drugs. You know, he died early, but Mario is indeed one of the founding fathers. We say Herc is the father, but Mario, Disco King Mario, Africa Bambaataa, Grandmaster Flash, Grand Wizard Theodore, Grandmaster Cass, they all was all around. This all started at the same time. Bam became known as the Master of Records. Grandmaster Flash invented the cut. You know, Grand Wizard did the scratching. Grand Wizard Theodore. You know, Mario did his thing while he was alive. So you figure, you know, we're going into the 80s now. You know, hip hop was not recorded yet. You know, everybody was just going to all the different jams that was going on in the Bronx, because the Bronx indeed started hip hop. You know, so the 80s come, and I think the first record that came out in '79 was Sugar Hill. Y'all remember that, right?
Of course.
And everybody was Sugar Hill Gang.
Yep.
You know, what's the name of that jam? They did the track off of Good Times from Chic.
Right.
And did that jam. Came out with that jam in '79. And that's when Grandmaster Cass said they stole his lyrics. Right. When they laid that track that it became a major on Sugar Hill Records, they stole Grandmaster Cass's rhymes. That was his joint. But he didn't publish it. But that was the first hit that came out. Some people say King Tim. Okay, King Tim, yeah, that was a favorite joint, but that Sugar Hill joint, that blew up. That definitely blew up, you know, and started putting things in motion. And then by '82, you had Jazzy. When Kiss FM started, you had Jazzy J on Kiss FM. He was the first DJ hip hop on Kiss FM. Africa Islam was on the AM dial. He was playing on a college station. So you can say Africa Islam was too, but Jazzy J was the first one on the FM dial on a major radio station. But Jazzy left to go to Def Jam with Russell Simmons, and he became one of the producers of LL's first album, Rock the Bells. A lot of people don't know that Jazzy was at Def Jam and was a producer on that first album. And that's how Red got on Kiss FM. Red is his cousin. So he put Red, he gave Red.
I'm sorry, King. A lot of people don't even know that Jazzy J, one of our own Zulu brothers, is actually the co-founder of Def Jam, right? He is kind of credited as the co-founder of Def Jam, right along with Russell and Rick Rubin.
Russell. That's true. That's true. And a lot of people don't know that. But like I said, he was. Rob is definitely right. That's a fact. You know, he produced that album. Red took his spot on Kiss FM. You know, Def Jam would later on jerk Jazzy. And we got into beef with them, but I'll get into that a little later. We did LL's album, Rock the Bells. That came out. That was a hit. Then came Run DMC. Run DMC, they changed the whole game of hip-hop. They changed the whole game. You know, time moved on. You had other rappers. You had Spoonie G at that time. You know, that early rap. Of course, you had Jimmy Spicer, Super Rhymes. Y'all remember that? Soup,
Mm-hmm.
soup,
Yeah,
soup.
R.I.P.
Jimmy Spicer. He passed, you know, but that was, to me, that was one of the best hip hop records. You know, hands down. You know, but that jam came out and it was an extended version, like at least 7 minutes. You know, but that was one of the brothers at that time. Spoonie G. Um, who else was out at that time? Rappers, early rappers around that time. The LL and
Treacherous 3,
Run
things
DMC
like
came
that.
out. You had DST and them. You had a lot of Zulu Kings that started rapping, but one of the main ones was a brother named David Parker, and he would come and hang out in Parkchester with us. You know, he was little known. He lived on 165th Street and Prospect Avenue. He used to have to be home by 10 o'clock. Sometimes we would walk him home from Parkchester all the way to 165th in the South Bronx in Prospect. That was Busy B. Busy
Mm.
B, first I took him to Africa Islam. And from Africa Islam, he started rapping for Disco King Mario. But Busy B was one of the best original rappers, and he took his style from Lovebug Starsky. Lovebug
Yeah.
Starsky was out at that time. And AJ, you know, y'all remember DJ AJ?
Mm-hmm.
You know, AJ Scratch, the jam up in the Bronx. Up in the Bronx. You had Lovebug Starsky, you had AJ, you know, you had Curtis Blow that lived in Harlem but was down with Def Jam. So you had a lot of things evolve around at the same time in the early 80s. By 83, that's when you had Soul Sonic Force. They got together by 83. Biggs, Bow Wow, Bam, Glow, and Planet Rock came out. That was our original anthem before the Zulu War Chant. Zulu War Chant will always be our anthem, but Planet Rock, you know, it told who we was, you know, Zulu Nation, you know, that record went around the world, you know. Soul
Mm-hmm.
Sonic Force, like Grandmaster Flash, Furious 5, Run DMC, LL, they was all traveling the world. They was all traveling the world and performing. So at that time, a lot of the chapters, when Bam and when Soul Sonic Force came on the scene, a lot of the chapters, I'm going to say incubated. And when I say incubated, I mean a lot of people started doing their own thing. We wasn't rolling like the force we was 79, 80, 81, 82. As powerful as we was in those years. By 83, things started quieting down. You know, everybody was moving in different directions. You know, but everybody was doing it. They still doing their thing. Africa Islam, Bam was playing the Roxy in Manhattan. You know, Red was on the radio. You know, at that time you had the Magic. Magic was on BLS, the Juice Crew from Queens. You know, that's when the bridge started. You know, the South Bronx with KRS. You know, KRS was down with us. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's when all that started. And that's all that started around 85, 86, when KRS started going against MC Shan and Magic and BLS. It was BLS rocking on the Friday, Saturday night, Red on Kiss FM. You know, that's how things was going on. You know, everybody was still partying, doing their thing. 86. By 86, I'm uptown in the Bronx, Edenwald. And that's where the
Mm-hmm.
22nd of the Division of the Black Spades was from. Edenwald was notorious. They say Edenwald was one of the most notorious projects, not only in the Bronx, but in New York. And one of the biggest projects in New York. Now, I'm in Edenwald at that time. This is the crack era. So the crack era, it took a lot of our people out. A lot of our people out, man. All the projects you go in. Crack infested, Bronx River, Bronxdale, Monroe, Castle Hill, Lambert, West Farms, Twin Parks. You know, I mean, that crack was, I think the only thing you can compare to what was as deadly as crack was dust. Because people would smoke dust and jump off the roof. That Red Devil, when that Red Devil
Mm-hmm.
came out in 77 off of 112th Street in St. Nick, my cousin's block, because they brought it out. That was one of Nicky Barnes' crew. And they brought that Red Devil dust out. It was no joke. But that crack era was similar to that dust era. I mean, you had females that was dimes. That was dimes. That crack turned into what became known as crack holes. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you go in the projects late at night. I mean, all type of shit going on. You know, these females is out here tricking for they crack. You know, when you had crews out there on both sides of the projects in Edenwald, but pretty much every block was doing their thing. You know, B.O.'s brother, may he rest in peace, T Mac, to this day, is still hustling on down there on Melrose projects in the Bronx, where they from, to this day. And, you know, a lot of times you go on Poppy's Facebook page, you know, you'll see him posting pictures with T Mac, or you go on T Mac's page, you
Mm-hmm.
see Poppy down in the block. You see Poppy down in the
Mm-hmm.
block with them. Poppy never got back into that game, you know, but you know, T Mac is family. You know, I go to New York, I'm definitely going to see T Mac because that's family. You know, he had caught it big. He did 11 years. He had 25 to life. He gave it back to them, and they got a older brother named Bam. You know, you'll see him on T Mac's page. He's dark skinned, like he's about the same complexion as T Mac, but
T-Mac just came home, you said, right? Like he just came home recently.
T Mac been home, right? He been him, right? He did that
Oh, he
11
been home?
years. He gave that time back.
Oh, okay.
I think he had 25 to life. They hit him. When he went up north, he went up
Mm.
north on kingpin charges, and he gave that time back. And he came home. I want to say this is 2024. He came home by about 2014. So he's been home about 10 years now. But he
Okay.
went right back into doing his thing. But that's all he knew. But so we rolled through the 80s. You know, I'm uptown. I'm in Edenwald, and Bam went to Europe. Bam went to Europe like around 86. You know, and Africa Islam followed him. Africa Islam is in Europe to this day, Germany.
Right,
But
Germany,
Bam
yep.
was stayed out there for a minute too. Yeah, Bam was out there for a minute too. You know, I'm uptown. My base is Edenwald, Boston Road, Eastchester, and I see KC. KC was one of the members of the Mayberry crew. I see him on Boston Road, and he said, yo, Shariyf. Matter of fact, I wasn't even going by Shariyf. I'm going by Shariyf at that time. And of course, I got the name Shariyf when I turned Muslim. I turned Muslim at 19 years old. But having the history so deep in the street, you know, I always acknowledge God. So I got one foot in the street and 1 foot in Islam, you know. But he told me, he said, Bam's home. I said, where he based at? He said, you could catch him at Jazzy's studio. Jazzy and Rocky
Strong,
had a
strong
studio
city.
called Strong City on Allenton Avenue in the Bronx. That was uptown, where Edenwood was at. So I go to Strong
Mm-hmm.
City. Of course, I'm happy to see Bam. Show him love. He happy to see me. And we just start building. I see Jay for the first time in a while too. And I said, Bam, we need to redo the council. This is May 1989. And said, okay, well, we're gonna call a meeting. We called the meeting, and I brought to that meeting a brother named Big Trev. Big Trev lived across the street in Baychester Projects from me. And I met Big Trev through one of the hustlers in Edenwall. Big Trev was down with him. Big Trev was hustling with him. Him and Big Trev got into this beef over this girl, which became Big Trev's wife, Leslie, which I told Big Trev, don't marry her, because you're going to have problems. But Big Trev came to that meeting with me. And at that meeting was Jazzy, Bam, I think LG was there, B.O., Saladin, I think Muhammad was there, Kenyatta from Castle Hill was there. But Kenyatta and B.O. had beef. Because B.O. said he was one of the ones that snitched on him when B.O. caught a bid. And B.O. had just came home. And B.O. looked him in the face and said, this bitch ass snitch got to get out of here. You got to go. So Kenyatta heavy up and bounced. Because B.O. was not playing. But we having the meeting. The main thing that came out of that meeting was we all gonna connect all the chapters back, but we're gonna do it under a Zulu Nation security organization. If I remember correctly, B.O. came up with the name Shaka. And I hadn't seen B.O. in a good while, from everybody doing their own thing from when he was young. But B.O. he always stood out. He was always a leader. He was a stick-up kid. He did his thing in the streets. Like I said, his brother was a major hustler. And so he always stuck out. He was no joke. And I always admired him, always liked him, I always respected him. He was a little younger than me, him and Big Trev, a couple of years younger than me. So I said, well, if we're gonna do this, I think the best one fit to lead this is you. So I'm nominating you as head of Shaka Zulu. I think Saladin second nominated him, and that's how Shaka Zulu began. Right there in Jazzy J's studio, B.O. was elected as the head. So we get a lot of these brothers from different chapters down with Shaka Zulu, because whenever Bam did his jam or whenever we did an anniversary, it was Shaka Zulu that did the security. But also, B.O. had his own personal crew called GF. They come off the west side in the Bronx. They was deep. And GF stood for Gigante Family and Sugar Ray. You know Sugar Ray.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, Sugar Ray was at that meeting at Jazzy J Studios. And B.O. named Sugar Ray his second in charge. Me and Sugar Ray never really clicked, because I never seen him bust a grape.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know him from a can of paint, but that was B.O.'s man. So he said, okay, this is the second in charge. And Born Justice, a 5%er. You know, we had a lot of 5%ers that was interacting with us, you know, Law Finesse, Showbiz, um, Showbiz and AG. That spot became, Jazzy J's spot became the hangout. B Stinger was there. B Stinger was indeed there. B Stinger used to come to the studio,
That's crazy.
Jazzy J studio.
That's crazy.
That's when Bam said he never knew him. I'm like, okay, alrighty, you know. But B Stinger was coming to the studio. All of us was coming to the studio. Saladin, Muhammad, and we would just hang out. You know, at that time, that's when Brand Nubians was laying their tracks for their album in Jazzy J's studio. That's where they did that album. And when they were doing, I knew Lord Jamar before he even became Brand Nubians, because I used to do security at a hotel in White Plains, and Lord Jamar worked with housekeeping. You know, to serve stuff for the events and all that. So me and him got tight. He would come do the back door. He would see my rings and everything, you know. He was, well, you Muslim, this and that. Me and him would start building. So I knew him from before he even got down with Brand Nubians. But they laid that album in Jazzy J's studio. That was the spot. But Shaka Zulu combined with GF. So that made us even more stronger. But at that time, Lord Tafik, who took his name from me, Lord Sharief, I took my name from Lord Finesse. That was my man, Lord Finesse. So I took my name. I said, okay, well, I'm going to be a Lord too. But that title came from the 5% brothers, Lord. You know, which I was tight with a lot of 5% brothers. You had a lot of 5%, a lot of 5%ers in West Farms and Lambert. 180th Street and Vice Avenue was one of their bases. They were strong. They was deep, you know, and that's what influenced me to Islam. You know, a lot of my partners were 5%, but that's what made me at 19 become Muslim, and I became Muslim under the Ansar. Remember the brothers that used to wear the white was on the trains as under Imam Isa, New York.
Right.
You know, I was heavily influenced.
Right.
Based in Bushwick, I was heavily influenced by them. You know, as a matter of fact, that's where I took my Shahada. That's where Bam also took his Shahada years later, because Bam became tight with Dr. York for a minute. Bam tried to deny that he became Muslim. And me and Tawfiq was there when he took his Shahada. I said, Bam, you saying you're not Muslim, but you forgetting that I was there when you took your Shahada. You know?
That's crazy.
But there was a spot called the Castle, and that was on 138th Street and Walton Avenue, right by the bridge before you go into Harlem. So this spot was off the chain. We used to take out guns. The owner, Mitch, who passed recently, he used to listen, y'all can bring your joints, but y'all got to check them in. So we would check them in like it was the OK Corral. We would leave all our pistols in the side basement of this club. You know? So we got all our artillery downstairs. But you had different crews coming into this spot. But they knew that was our spot. That was GF and Shaka Zulu's spot. You know, we took so many pictures in there, man, that when I went up north and me and my ex-wife broke up, she took all my pictures, them classic pictures, and threw them away. And those were my treasure pictures. Those were the only pictures that I had with B.O. and GF and Big Trev and all of us together, at the castle. And one of the cats that used to come into the castle was Iron Mike. I don't know if I remember Iron Mike from Bronx River. Iron Mike was a notorious stick-up kid. And he was down with my cousin Wise from uptown, Boston Road, and they was hustling out in D.C. in Virginia. I remember Lisa Lee, MC Lisa Lee from Bronx River,
Yeah.
and Smitty. And Smitty was out there with them. Lisa was out there, Smitty was out there, and Iron Mike. They was all out there. And things went haywire. And my cousin Wise and Smitty, they got locked up out there in the Fed joint out there in what's that Fed joint out there outside of DC in Virginia. He did 5 years fighting that case. 5 years fighting that case. He got 25 to life. And he gave it back. And as a matter of fact, me and him was locked up at probably at the same time. But while we was doing our thing, while we was rolling GF and Shaka, me, Saladin, Big Trev, and my partner D, who was out of my chapter from Parkchester, he was originally from the 9, we started sticking up joints. We was going to Midtown, going down into the Diamond District, hitting up, where them spots where the Jews was at? All downtown with them diamonds and them cashes and them little suitcases. Yeah. We was doing our thing. But I was the head of that crew. And everybody wasn't as good as everybody. Like Big Trev, I would tell Trev, this might not be for you. Saladin, that was his thing. So me and him, we clicked on that. April of 91, Saladin called a bid for sticking up. He got 4 to 12. He got the same thing I got, 4 to 12. That April 91. That October of 91. Now we had spots all over, but mainly Manhattan. Manhattan was my thing. And I was the type, if I hit a spot and I didn't get enough cash, if I was not satisfied with the cash, I would hit 2-3 spots in one day. And if I didn't have my partner D with me, one of my partners, I'm solo. And I would move through Manhattan quick. I'm on foot. And I'm hitting spots in. As soon as I hit a spot, I'm on the train. I will go over into Brooklyn, Queens, come back into the Bronx, later on that night. At that time, it was just crazy, the way we was moving. But
King,
one night, Big Trev was about...
Hold that thought, King. What I want to do is, real quick, I just want to end it. So let's upload it. I'm just going to end this one, and then we'll record right after 1 minute. So hold that thought.
Okay. All right.